En acción. Hola, hola, bienvenidos a un episodio más de Trascendencia en Acción. Soy la doctora Xochitl Yadira y tengo el placer de tener dos invitadas. Vamos a hacer este episodio en inglés, así de que ya saben, vayan al episodio en YouTube y usen los captions para que puedan entender este mensaje. Welcome everyone. We are so pleased to be in another episode here in Trascendencia en Acción. And I have two amazing guests today talking about a very important topic, which is breast cancer prevention. So we're going to get started right away because we have a lot of amazing content for you. So I want to start with my friends. I have Patty and Nikki. So we're going to start learning a little bit more about them and then go from there. So why don't we get started with you, Patty?
First of all, thank you, Xochitl. Thank you for having us have this conversation with you. Thank you for giving us your platform to communicate with the Hispanos here in the world, because now you've told me you're in Colombia and Switzerland, so I'm going to say the world. I'm Patricia Cabral Mercado. I'm from Zacatecas. I immigrated to Milwaukee, I want to say 40-something years ago. Yeah. I am a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed at 44. And I'm hoping to share my story with you, along with share some tips and things for the Hispanic community, which I feel strongly needs to be educated on this topic because it does invade our world and it's more common than we know.
Yeah, and we'll come back, obviously, to learn more about it and the importance, because this is not just about the patients and the survivors. It's about the family, the community, and everyone that surrounds them. So thank you, Pati. Bienvenida. Nikki.
Hi. Thank you so much for having us. So my name's Nikki Panico, and I work for an organization, Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. And I work for the state of Wisconsin, but the foundation is international. So I'll say that for your listeners that are outside of Wisconsin. I'm battling breast cancer for the second time. The first time I was 39 with a 3-year-old. Now I'm 55 with this little boy, now 18 and off to college. So the disease has hit me very hard. I'll share more about that. But just really excited to communicate what I feel is really life-saving information. With your viewers.
No, well, thank you. And thanks in advance I know this is obviously a very important topic, but also very vulnerable. So thank you both for allowing my platform to not just hear your stories and be in this journey with you as well, but the importance of having the community, be informed. So I'm going to start us off with a little bit of statistics just to set the stage. So in regards to breast cancer, we know that statistically 1 in 8 women in the U.S. alone will be diagnosed at one point in their lifetime. 1 in 8. That's just crazy. I mean, that's just the 3 of us here, and then a few more of our friends, right? We also know that breast cancer, while the deaths have dropped by 44% since 1989. A lot has to do with early detection, which is a lot of what we're going to be talking about, and the importance of knowing and learning the science, because like you said, Patty, a lot of us, I know personally, I don't normally pay attention to those things, right? And I'm 42 now, and I don't think this is something that's ingrained culturally on how do you even go about knowing that. So we'll dive a little bit more into that. And particularly, obviously, this is something for women in general. This is a big, aspect. But amongst even our Hispanic community, we know that breast cancer is one of the leading causes of cancer death. So with that, I'm going to open it up to you, Patty, first. And we keep joking because in English it's Patty and then in Spanish it's Patty. So you might hear me saying both.
You're going to code switch throughout.
I'm going to code switching live here. So tell us a little bit about, I know I've known you. I've had the pleasure of, being friends for a while now. And I remember personally when I found out, I remember just sobbing. And I was like, no, not Patty. Because you go to the extreme, right? You go to the worst.
Absolutely.
And the emotional toll. And I'm sure, right, for you, the family, everyone. But you're so young. You're so fit. Because this girl, man, she hikes and she works out. And she does all the right things. And I want to say that it's almost like this, not just the cultural shock, but also what did I do wrong? Why me? How did that also started for you?
So I've never shared my story. I don't think I've ever shared my story from the beginning with anyone. But of course, thank you. By the way, Xochitl was one of my biggest supporters, like messages, anything I needed, just sending care packages, right? So I really appreciate it. You're absolutely right. When you get diagnosed, your mind goes to, what did I do wrong? And why me? And is karma coming back at me? Things like that cross your mind, right? I have always worked out. I've always been fit. I've always watched what I ate. Never been a person to just sit around the couch. That's never been me. I was one of those people where I turned 40. I went to go get my first mammogram. I turned 42. I got another one. And then COVID hit, the pandemic, and everything started to close down, right? So, and then they were telling you, like, if you got your COVID shot, wait a little bit because your lymph nodes get inflamed. So, and I skipped 2 years. I didn't get my next mammogram till I was 44. And I went in, typical July day, not expecting anything. Not that it's a pleasant experience, by the way. I think mammograms were designed by men because if men had to go through it,
True that.
it would not be designed to do what it's doing today.
Yeah.
Got a call about 2 days later, and they're like, you need to come back in. And I was like, no, I'm going on vacation. What are you talking about? Like, it's nothing. I've had cysts before, whatever. And they were like, no, we really need you to come in. I'm like, well, I'm flying out in 3 days. Can you schedule me beforehand?
And we know we vacation hard. So
we vacation hard. That's a priority.
Yeah.
And so I go in, and at this point, they were like not doing a normal mammogram, which is 4 or 5 images. It turns into 12 images. And I text my sister, who I love, my youngest sister, and I'm like, something's wrong. And she's like, you're being paranoid. You already know we have dense tissue. We'll talk about the dense tissue, right, that a lot of women have in their breast area. And so I was like, no, this feels different. And so I get out of the 12 images, and they're like, we need to do an ultrasound. And I'm like, okay, I've been through this. Like, I should preface, my father and my mother both died from cancer.
Wow.
So now I'm thinking the worst. So I go have this ultrasound, and I have 3 doctors walk in, and when you see 3 doctors walk into a room, you know something's wrong. And I'm like, they're like, we are 90-something% sure you have cancer. At that point, I swear, and I won't swear on your podcast.
You can.
But, well, if I can, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Yeah. I have a trip in 3 days.
I'm like, I'm 44. What do you mean I have breast cancer? Breast cancer does not run in my family.
And mind you were there for just a typical appointment. So it's not like your family was there, your husband.
I was so sure nothing was wrong with me because I had 0 symptoms. I had no lumps. I had no leakage from that area. I had no pain, nothing. Wow. Nothing that I could say, I'm going to go and end up with breast cancer, right? So once I got done swearing, of course the tears start flooding down because then the emotions kick in. And they're like, we need you to get scheduled for a biopsy right away because we need to identify what type of cancer it is. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. And the doctor's looking at me like, do you need some time to calm down? And I'm like, no, I'm going on vacation. We can do this when I come back from vacation. So
of course.
That's how the process started.
Yeah.
My biggest takeaways were like, I had no symptoms, and I wish I would never have skipped any mammogram.
Right.
Once I turned 40, it should have been an annual thing. I know sometimes they tell you insurance won't cover it.
Right.
I honestly say you are your biggest advocate, and that was a lesson learned for me. Now, when I got diagnosed, they call it stage 1B because it had spread to my lymph nodes.
Okay.
So you go in, you get diagnosed, you go then pick an oncologist, you pick a surgeon, and you pick a radiologist because you don't know what treatment you're going to get. Extremely overwhelming.
Yeah.
If I didn't have the support from my family and the support from my friends, I think I would have lost my mind. And I think, Nikki, you can relate.
Yes.
It's a overwhelming feeling of losing control for a type A female. And you and I, so we joke around because we are like type A, right? I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And suddenly your world is upside down. You cannot control what's happening to you, and you don't know why it's happening. Now, throw on top of that you had parents that both died from cancer.
Exactly.
Now I'm looking at creating a will. I'm thinking, what's going to happen to my kids?
Again, because your mind goes to the worst.
To the worst, right?
Right? Yeah.
But then you put out what I call like your chingona hat, like you would say, right? And you say, you know what? I can't die because I have 2 kids. I have now a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old. They're older now, but I'm like, I always say my husband can replace me. He can find another wife, right? He's still a good-looking man. But my kids can't replace their mom. Yeah. So I will say that a lot of my energy and me digging out of the hole of thinking the worst, that I was going to die, was because I felt I had something to live for. I had a purpose. I was a mother. Yes, my profession was important to me, but the most important thing was being there for those kids.
Yeah. And it's so important, and thanks for the vulnerability and sharing. We take for granted as well that, and I always say this and I will always say it, we have the privilege one way or another to live in a country where, like you said, sometimes the resources aren't there, and it's not like, it's a free service either, but there's resources that can help you. And most important to your point, and I always say this because I like good stuff, but I'm like, man, if I can spend and splurge in a Louis Vuitton bag and spend on something that is absolutely zero necessity in my life, I should probably consider investing in my healthcare and considering, because most hospitals have payment plans too, but don't take it for granted because we have the technology, we have the resources, we have amazing facilities that can get all this prevention in motion and really save your life in the long run. So thanks for highlighting that. So Nikki, we'll go with you.
Sure. And Patty brought up some good points on you about accessibility and when to get screened, which we will talk about. But as far as my journey, and thank you for asking, and hopefully by Patty and I sharing our own stories, it might help a viewer out there rethink their own situation. But my mom and my aunt, my mom and her sister, actually both battled stage 4, which is metastatic breast cancer, and that's when the cancer leaves the breasts and goes to other organs. So my mom and her sister died within a month of each other, both from breast cancer. So my grandparents were alive, and they lost their only 2 children within a month. And then the same year they died of breast cancer, I was diagnosed for the first time. And a little bit about screening, a side note to educate. Well, when do I get screened? First, it's really important to know your family history and to really ask. And not all families are open in talking about it, but you need to know and ask, has my great-grandmother ever had breast cancer, or my grandmom, or my mom, or my auntie, and get that information. With that information, you want to talk to your doctor, either your general practitioner, or if you're a gynecologist, and have that discussion. When should I get screened? I remember, so back to my story, when my mom was first diagnosed, and I was in my 30s, because she was diagnosed twice. And I have 3 sisters, and she sat us down and said, hey, my doctor said, because I have breast cancer, you girls should start getting mammograms at age 35.
Wow.
So I did. I started at 35. So thankfully, when I was 39, the breast cancer was caught in an annual mammogram. I went through chemotherapy and a double mastectomy and additional treatment. And about 13, 14 years later was when my breast cancer came back. And I we'll talk about physical signs. Patty mentioned it too. She didn't feel a lump, but there's other physical signs. And those other physical signs I saw on my body. And I went, and sure enough, even with the double mastectomy, it's not 100%. So I want to let your viewers know that there's breast tissue up here. Under your armpit is breast tissue. Under here is breast tissue. It's not just the cup of your breast.
Right.
So to just keep that in mind. Again, we'll talk about the physical signs to be aware of. But with my story, like Patty, so grateful because I have access to insurance and access to great care, and not everyone does. So we will talk about Susan G. Komen and how they can help you with the overwhelmingness of the diagnosis and all the different doctors. So Susan G. Komen is there for you. You are not alone.
Yeah.
So now I am what you call stage 4, where it has not, it's left my breast, and for me, it's in my bones. And again, I'm so grateful because I have access to really great treatments and really awesome health care. So I'm doing really well. But the cancer I have, there's no cure for.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear. But it's
okay.
also one of those things that I want to dare to say that sometimes we look at you, right? And, oh, my God, you look great. You look healthy. And we talk a lot about this in this podcast because as humanity, I think this is where we need to just bring a little bit down the knowledge and humbleness, and also understand everybody is fighting their own battles. And we can hide it under appearances, but it's so important to lean on each other and understand that these stories need to be told for a reason. And then I always say it's no coincidence, right, that you're here and doing amazing work in that community, and especially supporting Susan Komen, but then the legacy you're building with awareness. So I'm going to pivot a little bit because I've heard terminology and I'm a little familiar because I've had, close friends, and I've been involved in a little bit of the Susan Komen campaign. So, and I actually, oh my God, this was, I'm going to age myself here, probably like 10, 15 years ago. I co-chaired what used to be called the Birthday Councils, which was the Cancer Society for Children. I don't even know if they still around or not, but I learned a little bit more about what it was, dealing with childhood cancer. But for the audience that might not know, can you tell us a little bit about what are the different stages of cancer? And I know when you talked about stage 1, right, is detectable, is preventable. And you talk about stage 4, there's really no cure other giving you treatment and giving you the best quality of life. Can you walk us, whoever wants to do that, into what are the different stages for people to understand what that means and start thinking about that and having even empathy or informing others might not know about?
Do you want to cover the stages?
Sure. And I will say, taking a step back, if you don't mind, before talking about the stages, is to just finish the dialogue about when I should get screened, because I know your audience is bilingual, your viewers, but Latina women are diagnosed with a later stage. And what the later stage means is it's based on the size of the tumor, the type of the tumor. There's different types of breast cancer, which gets a little confusing. So we won't share on this, but the staging is based on the type, particularly the size. And the type, there's faster growing. As I say, there's 3 different types. And it's really, really important. So I'm going to just take a step back, that you get screened and physical signs. Because as you said, one of the first things, we want to get this as early as possible. Right. So it doesn't stage. The stages go from 0, where it's really just a cell, like the detection of some of these x-rays can catch it before it even gets to a tumor. To stage 4, where it's outside of the breast. So you have like 1, 2, 3, 4. But I think what we really want your viewers to take away is, when do I get screened? How do I know what to look for and what can reduce my risk? So I already talked about the first thing of your breast self-awareness, and that is know your family history.
Yeah.
And I know I mentioned my mom. Oh, and then my sister got breast cancer. I have 3 sisters and one got. But I will tell you, and this is really important, do not think that because it doesn't run in your family that you are not susceptible, because only 10%, that is very, very low, carry the gene.
Wow.
Very low carry the gene. So don't say it doesn't run in my family.
Yeah.
So get your family history and when to get screened. Hopefully you have that discussion. If you don't have any family history that you know of, then the recommendation from the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, and Patty said 40. That is the recommendation, to start getting mammograms at age 40 every single year and do not skip. Wow. And if you are uninsured or underinsured, you call Susan G. Komen and we can help figure out how you can get screened if you're uninsured or underinsured, because you want to get screened.
Yeah.
The next piece, which is the third thing you want to know, we started 1, family history, 2, when to get screened, and 3 is know your normal. I already showed you breast tissue, breast tissue, breast tissue, breast tissue. So you need to absolutely look for lump. Patty said, I didn't feel a lump. I didn't feel a lump. I mean, you can't go inside and feel. But if you can, that is one sign. But here's some others. Like you have a dimple on your cheek, you could have a dimple on your breast. You could have pain, shooting pain. You can have a rash. Patty and I met on a triathlon team of cancer survivors. And we're exercising. And I had a sports bra, and Patty always exercised. I didn't. I'm like, I didn't. And so I thought, oh, my body doesn't know what's happening to it. I'm actually sweating under my breast when a sports bra is rubbing, and I had a rash. I thought it was a rash. Got powder, the whole works. No, a rash. If any of these I'm describing persists more than 2 weeks, you see your doctor, ladies. You are the CEO of your body. So a rash. Patty mentioned like a discharge, and some women may have that automatically. But if you have discharge, not just at the nipple, but where I said I had this rash, it looked like a scab opened. Don't mean to gross anybody out. So it was like oozing. And again, I thought, oh, I'm allergic to lake water. I've never swum. I thought of every excuse of what's happening under my chest here. So we talked about dimpling. Also, changes in size. Listen, ladies, I'm breaking it to you. Your breasts, they're not the same size.
No.
They are not. Right. But they could enlarge. So again, these physical signs, if it persists more than 2 weeks, you call a doctor. And I think us as women sometimes maybe don't like to look in the mirror naked. I'm telling you, you look in the mirror naked.
Get comfortable with it.
You embrace
Love your
it.
body.
You love it because, hey, ladies, the 2 areas where we have problems as women, we avoid. So no, when you're washing yourself, when you're putting lotion, you pay attention because you might not always have a physical sign, but they are present, and women only think of lump. But I want you to think of other physical signs. Yeah. So that's number 3. You know you're normal. So when your normal changes, you're like, okay.
Yeah. And I want to add in this one, right? Because we also have a lot of male viewers.
Yes.
If you're a partner, help out.
100%.
Why not? Right?
While
you're out there, like do a little due diligence.
You know if your wife's normal is, or partner's normal is.
Like, hey, this doesn't feel normal.
I have met women who say, my partner found it. 100%.
Yeah.
So they're the physical signs. And I can't stress enough to really think about those physical signs and pay attention to your body. Know you're normal and be the CEO of your health. And then the 4th element is make healthy lifestyle choices. And this goes for many diseases, right?
Yes.
You want to reduce and limit alcohol intake. Move your body. Eat healthy. And Komen recommends, especially if you're at higher risk, that you've probably had a menopause session or two, and if not, I'll volunteer to talk about that, because that
we have not had one. So
That's a
you
whole
ladies are
different-
young,
that's a whole podcast.
but estrogen.
Yeah.
Estrogen is in alcohol. Estrogen is in belly fat. Estrogen is a feeder of the most common type of breast cancer.
Yeah.
So that's why we talk about paying attention to that. So, but you can play a part in your health by trying to reduce your risk.
And I love that you talk about that, because I can remember I was reading an article that just talks about, in general, about deficiencies happening in today's fast world, especially in our younger women. So my daughter and I talk, I'm like, forgive me, my baby, but she becomes part of the podcast automatically, my kids, by inheritance of the conversations. So she's young, she's 22, but she just graduated college. She had a very just busy, crazy life, just a typical student college life. And she was working, and I would notice sometimes she would be extremely tired, or I'd be like, did you have a physical exam? And did you get all your checks and balances, on time? Is there any research, or does Susan Komen share about younger generations? Because what the study was saying was that, to your point, what I was hearing, right? Like the 40 and above, and then 35 recommended if it's in your family. But there has been a lot of cases of a lot more younger women getting cancer nowadays.
100%. You're so right. Younger and younger. And it's its own epidemic in a way, but we don't know why. But absolutely, it's being researched. Environmental.
Yeah.
What is in our air? What is in our food? It's really scary. Younger and younger women are getting diagnosed with breast cancer.
And it's like you said, it's just so many things. One of the things my daughter is very great at, and I'm so proud of her, even deodorant, right? Like I was so oblivious. I just go with the one that I like the most, the one that lasts the longer. And she started telling me look for the ones that has no parabens, no aluminum, no this. And I'm like, but they fade away faster. And she's like, Mom, they're healthier. And then I started joining her in that. I mean, shampoo, same
Kudos
thing,
to her.
right?
The younger generation is much more aware of what's going into the products that we're using.
So
our generation, I don't think we were as
she's
aware
amazing.
or
No.
didn't care to be aware, if that makes any sense.
I think it was just more of we didn't know what we didn't know, and we learned from our parents, right? And statistically, I know I was just reflecting on this when you said about know your family history. There has been research, especially in smaller hometowns and in Mexico, where a lot of women, especially in tribes or in smaller communities, they just randomly die, and they're like, oh, it was because of age or whatever, and they're associating it that there was a smaller community. I want to say it was in Oaxaca, one of those communities, where they were saying most of these were all related. They didn't even know they were related because they live very humble lives, and most of them had most likely some sort of cancer in their family. But they don't have access to big facilities. They just go with the nature says, right? And I was thinking about that. How many of us go through life, even if we have access, not even thinking about? Because I can tell you, my first mammogram was almost forced on me when I was 37. And that's because I had breast implants and they got encapsulated. And I freaked out because I didn't know what that was. And of course, I was same thing. They had me do several ones and they had me come back. And I was like, what's going on? And then they told me, no, thank God, it's just encapsulation. There was a lot of tissue and my body rejected them. So I had to get that taken care of. But ever since, I've had those painful mammograms. But it's amazing on the level of technology. Because I remember the very first time I went, we're 6-7 years ago. And it was very invasive. And I think the last one I had, it was a little bit less invasive. It was still painful. It was a little better, but it was the one that goes around you.
Yes.
So it was oh, wow, this was in a lot faster. They didn't have to do it. So technology, it's advancing. 100%. And so for our younger generations, do you recommend, if there's a single doubt, even if you're in doubt, talk to your doctors and there's nothing that says they can't get it early enough, right?
I love that you asked that. And your daughter's a rock star.
Yes, she is.
She really is, because you have to be conscientious. There's even we call your first layer bra and panties. They have lots of dyes in them.
Yeah.
So even paying attention to that. But I tell young women all the time, if your gut is telling you something is not right with your health, that you persist. And I've heard time and time again of women in their 20s, 30s, be told, you are too young for breast cancer.
Right.
Just don't worry about it. And please, you have a beautiful young listeners and viewers, please don't take that.
Push back.
Absolutely.
Challenge. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because as I said, you will get dismissed. And don't. This disease is absolutely coming for younger people. And we talked about estrogen, the hormone, and that's what's in foods and the cows. And so really don't give up and persist. If you really in your gut say something is not right, I see this change, I feel this change, and find a new doctor.
Yeah.
And even not young women. One of my sisters, I mentioned I have 3 sisters, and years ago when our mom died, our aunt died, and then I was diagnosed, and she was in her 30s, and she said to her gynecologist, I want a mammogram. Can you write me a script? And the doctor says, no. I have, wait till you're 40. And my sister said, what do I do? And I said, you find a new doctor.
Yeah.
Because you must get screened. That's with a family. That just is an example. You don't need a family history, as I said. I do want to mention something both of you said about a mammogram. I don't want your viewers to be scared. Take ibuprofen before you get a mammogram. I mean, it's an X-ray machine, and they smush and they take, but that pain will go away. And, it's uncomfortable. I say take a couple ibuprofen before and after to ease
Nikki.
that.
I always tease them. I do think it's very uncomfortable. One thing I want to call out, actually 2 things that I want to call out, is men also get breast cancer.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people believe breast cancer is just woman.
Okay.
And no, it does not discriminate gender. So men, your listeners, they should also be screened, right? If they know you're normal at whatever age you are, know you're normal, know your body. The other thing I want to address, which is why as the Hispanic community, we get diagnosed at later stages. We don't talk about it, Xochitl.
Right.
We're having this conversation very openly right now. We're talking about our bodies. We're talking about where our breasts are surrounded by tissue.
Yeah.
How many conversations in the Hispanic community have you ever had about a woman looking in the mirror and knowing her body? We don't.
We
it's
talk
a cliche.
about things that are so meaningful, like in other ways that, the appearances and what she's wearing and this and that. But health is so important. And I'm glad you're bringing that up,
100%.
because let's normalize it.
Exactly. It's a cliche.
Yeah.
We should know our body. We should love our body. As women, whatever culture we are, we should be able to have a conversation about we feel something in our body. And unfortunately, I still see it so predominant with the Hispanic community. And I'm hoping by you and I, by us 3 having this conversation, it starts to become a little bit more normal. And when a woman is sitting next to her friend and saying, I feel something or something doesn't feel right, you don't change the topic. You address the topic and you encourage that person to go to the doctor, to look for the free resources.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to even add the one, be that advocate friend, right? Even just saying, hey, did you get yourself checked this year? Because I'm in that stage where I'm like hanging out with a lot of my friends that we just hit the 40s, and I want to make it a point. So all my friends, don't be surprised if I start asking you and go up to you and be like, you got your checks out? Because I will be doing that. But I love them because it's so important, because that is something I so admire about the new generation. They have no filters.
No.
And talking about
You are
things
so
like that,
right.
I think this is more us, right? And we have to start disrupting that. And I agree with you. And I love that you mentioned that, because part of the reason, right, we talked about the late detection on particularly Hispanics is that because we go to the typical stereotyping of like, that's normal, it's just a headache, or it's a rash, it's bothering me, when talk about it.
Or I have too many things to do. I
I'm
got to run the kids to
busy.
the market. I got a soccer tournament this weekend. Like we play the supermom role.
Absolutely. And to your point, and I will go back to demystifying that. So thanks for clarifying that, Nikki. I am the biggest chicken when it comes to anything medical, especially like even dentists, I dread it. And I would say it was uncomfortable, but it was nothing from another world whatsoever. And it is intimidating, I think, mostly because we don't talk about it, because we don't normalize it. But if you think about it, I mean, many of us, I know, including myself, I do Botox. Now, that's painful. And I do it because
100%.
I'm very
I'm with you. Okay,
I love it.
right? Like every 6 months, I get my little touch up, and man, I'm crying, but I'm getting it done. This is nothing compared to that.
I love that you said that. I'm like, I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that.
Like that's more normal,
right?
Yeah.
I get the Botox and the sloughing off the skin, and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah.
That's a lot more painful.
So don't try it. And we know that that's a lot. And you know, it's so sad because now that I'm thinking about it, we do talk a lot more things like that.
We do.
And this again, that's more about the
true.
superficial stuff.
So true.
And we don't talk about the things that will save lives. If not for you, maybe
your
you're not friends and
Yeah.
family, or you never know who is leaving and fighting a battle, and just leaning in and informing our community is so important. So I'm glad that we're having this conversation. And thanks for talking about awareness, because again, we don't know sometimes the signs. And I know there's been, I've seen it in movies, or like, oh, like it starts with like a rash or a skin, discoloration, or sometimes there's a million signs, but it sounds like these are the most common ones to look for. And I love that you pointed out, like, listen to your gut, because I do want to say that as much as we don't pay attention, we do know when something's wrong. We definitely know. Whether it's something severe or from its slightest, like I just not feeling myself, listen to your body.
Yeah, we make excuses as women. That's what I said. Oh, it's because of this or this. And we don't, it's going to be a hassle, but just be with yourself and take it in to say, yeah, I got to do something about this. I'm going to stop making excuses.
Yes.
I'm going to address it.
Yes. I want to go back before we jump back into the stages, because I loved how you went into signs. When you went through your journey, what were some of the biggest aha moments as you were discovering, as you learned about things to look out for, and even going through the process, that you can think back now and say, this is something I could have paid attention to, or this is something I could have done better?
I don't know that there's anything that I could have done better.
Yeah.
That was an aha moment for me, because I did look for what could I change? What should I have done different? Right. What I can talk about is some of the things that I learned. So one of the things that Nikki, you mentioned, is cancer is related to your hormone. So mine was a hormone-driven cancer.
Okay.
I never knew that your hormones can basically try and kill you, right? So mine was estrogen positive, which means the estrogen in my body was the culprit for my cancer. Okay. What I also learned is there's different treatments based on the type of cancer that you have. So yes, you have breast cancer, but there's many forms of breast cancer. I also learned that there's many clinical trials, and I will give credit to foundations like Susan G. Komen, that are looking for better treatments. So one of the treatments, the other thing I will say is, if you are going through this journey, right, to each their own on whether they want to experiment or not. My belief is, when I got diagnosed, okay, this happened for a reason. Once I got past all my traumas, there's trials that were going on for immunotherapy, which uses your own body to fight the cancer. So it basically puts you on auto boost, is the way I call it. And so I decided I wanted to do a trial because I fit into the category of estrogen positive. Okay, they're trying this. Why not? So I did immunotherapy. It was supposed to help make the chemo much more effective. Now, I will talk that I was a failure for that experiment, but I'm glad I did it because it gave them more information. Mm-hmm. So to me, anything that provides more information for individuals that have to go through this until we find a cure is a bonus. So all the research being done right now, it's a bonus. In the past, I think when you got diagnosed, it was automatically, you just go to chemo, right? So yes, I went through immunotherapy. I went through chemo. The other thing I learned is there are different types of chemos, right? Yes, I did lose my hair. And for those of you that know me, these are my beautiful wigs because I'm not able to get my hair back.
They're gorgeous.
They're absolutely stunning. And it's my hair because I paid for it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the chemo will have different impacts to your body. Mm-hmm. So I went through 16 rounds of chemo and I had to have a chemo change because I had a bad allergic reaction, which is why I keep saying, be your own advocate. You know when something's wrong. I knew I was reacting. I went to the hospital. I was hospitalized for a week as a result of that. And then I had a double mastectomy, which means I took both my breasts, right, and had them replaced.
Thanks for clarifying that because I was going to ask for those that don't know, what does that mean? And that's basically removing
the cancer breasts. For me was on my left side.
Okay.
But when they did scans on the right side, they kept seeing like little spots and I was like, it wasn't cancer, but it could become cancer. Right. And for me, it was peace of mind. Now, does it prevent me from getting a reoccurrence? Absolutely not. Right. But for me, it was peace of mind. And then I did radiation as well. So I went through the whole process. Wow. It was 18 months of treatment. I'll also call that out. You learn that your body and your mind go hand in hand. Your strength is in your mind. Your body helps you, right? You also learn how to be humble. Mm-hmm. For a woman that's type A, to go into a situation after a double mastectomy, and for me, it was they call it a deep flap, where they take the fat from your abdomen area and they put it on your chest to create your breast. Little did I know that after a surgery like that, they're basically cutting you in half like a Frankenstein and then piecing you together, right? Mm-hmm. You can't walk after that surgery. You can't stand up after that surgery for a couple days, sometimes for a couple weeks until you can stand up straight again. Mm-hmm. So going from being extremely independent to relying on your partner, in my case, to help me, you suddenly appreciate so much more, one, having a partner, but number two is how amazing your body can recover. Yeah. Because to something that Nikki mentioned, we met through a triathlon group. So after I went through my recovery, I did a triathlon to get my body back in shape, right? You
didn't start with walking. You started with
no, because why would
you start with walking and just chilling? Like you're amazing.
Your body's amazing. Your body will always find a way to recover if you feed it, if you care for it, if you give it the love that you give others. Your body will respond. But you have to love yourself enough to let yourself heal, and then to want yourself to be in a better place.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I love that.
And I'm going to go back to something you said that really resonated, because humility, like being humble, right? And I think I'm going to almost dare to say that a lot of what causes the lack of awareness and the lack of prevention is we're not humble enough to be open to being educated about the topic and open enough to say, yeah, I need to go get checked. I don't know nothing about this topic. I don't know nothing about this, but let me go learn. Let me even just go to make sure everything's fine, because we're more afraid of the ego or what will others say or how is this? Like, I don't know nothing about it. So I don't want to look dumb asking questions that I don't know how to ask, and know that it's perfectly okay. This is not, breast cancer and just cancer in general is not something that comes with a manual in life, just like having a kid, right? They don't come with a manual. You learn as you go. And I love the part that you said, even though you knew you were betting on a treatment and you wanted to go on a trial and you didn't know what the outcome. And while I can only imagine, the emotional exhaustion of saying it didn't work out for me, But the way you say it and how you lit up when you say it, at least my story and my journey help feed that research.
100%.
As a researcher, right? It's like that is so important. People don't understand that every experience, every time you walk into a treatment, every time you go for a test, every time you talk about this, you're feeding the research. Even talking about the fact that we already know in our Latino community, we don't talk about this. Think about how many researchers and how many studies are doing to try to prevent that and try to work more towards that. And what is it? Is it the resources? Is it the language? Like, what is it, right? And so that's why it's so important the work the Susan G. Komen Foundation does, because I know they have plethora of information even in Spanish.
Absolutely.
And in so many languages.
Absolutely.
The websites, I mean, there's a huge, superpower behind everything to inform. So my call to action to the audience is like, don't be nervous. Just look it up. And hey, nowadays, nobody needs to know your business. You have this little baby. You literally research it. Tell me anything I need to know about cancer, right? Because chances are is that you just need to know a little bit more about it. And we have these amazing stories here to share more about it. So let's go back a little bit more. Some of the other things, and I had talked about that. It's overwhelming with the amount of not only the diagnosis, right, in the stages. And I didn't even know that was the how it worked, right? I always assumed it was just based on a different type of cancer, not necessarily the size. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And Patty, thank you for sharing all that. That's not easy, everything you shared. And I was thinking, okay, women need support when we're going through this. And you keep talking about education. So no, Komen.org. And what can you find there? How can you find support and information? And this is for loved ones. This is for individuals who are diagnosed, and also just women wanting to know more. Right. So we have an 800 number that is available 7 days a week. We call it our hotline, our patient care center. And yes, there's bilingual professionals who answer that phone and talk about any question you have. And we have navigators, and they're individuals that can help you get through the system, whether it's just how do I get a mammogram, or now that I'm diagnosed, they want me to see all these doctors. I don't understand. Help me understand what's just a wealth of information. We provide financial assistance to individuals that are diagnosed. This is, you may have insurance, but what if you're missing work? There's so many financial obligations that. I had a similar surgery to Patty, and you're laid up quite a bit. So we provide financial assistance.
Okay.
So Komen.org, and right on the homepage is our helpline, and we have a separate separate website search engine just for clinical trials in breast cancer. And for survivors, I need to get this to Patty because we have our own database for survivors where it's a repository, so to speak, where everyone's data is, and the saliva to get the genetics and everything, so that researchers from all around the world can have access to data. Wow. And at Komen, we're a foundation. We raise money, and we've given $1.2 billion to research.
Wow.
And that has funded. There is 40 treatments for breast cancer, and Komen has been a part of 38 of those treatments because of amazing donors and fundraisers and our research. So there's a lot of information on clinical trials out there, how to find information.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. And one of the things that I want to highlight before, obviously, we leave today is part of the reason, too, is advocating, right, and helping and pushing our community. So we're also going to be doing an invite, because one of those ways of fundraising and, raising awareness, and I've had the privilege of attending some of your events to support you, is the fundraising, the galas, the walk. So talk about this walk that is coming up. And I know you're spearheading one specifically for you. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So I'll give you some history. When I got diagnosed in 2022, it was actually July. Fast forward, I started treatment in September right away. And I decided to do the Susan G. Komen More Than Pink walk. And so from there, my friends, my family, they organized a big team for me, and it's Patty's Pack Rack. Yeah. Play on words, right? But that's how we roll in my family. Okay. And from there, in 2022, I've been trying to do a team every year and trying to help raise funds to support Susan G. Komen. For me, it's a way to give back, Xochitl. It's a way to inform the community. It's a way for that month for breast cancer awareness that we raise the flag and say, okay, have we had a mammogram this year as females? And for my Latinas out there, it's a way for me to help inform them, because I feel like if we're the ones getting diagnosed at stage 3, right, which means it's spread to other organs in your body, then we need to do something different. We need to be sending the message louder and getting the women to get the exams done a lot earlier. There's no reason that we need to be dying from this disease at this point in time when there's over 40 different treatments. It's more that we're just not educated. And for me, whether it's education of sending your kids over to college or educating you on healthcare, if I can bring that to the Hispanic community, I will always do that. So on September 28th, I'll be there walking. I'll be there with Nikki. I'll be there with my team. And it's fundraising to give a little bit back to the community, to make resources available for equity. Not all of us have good health insurance, so let's make it a point to give back to those that don't. And let's be out there representing. Why as Hispanics aren't we representing those things that will help our community stay healthy, be with our kids, right, and live long lives? There is absolutely no reason we can't do that for each other.
I agree, and thanks for sharing. So September 28th, when and where is it happening? Is this a family event? Can anyone join?
Oh, I bring my dog. I should mention that. So I actually have 3 dogs. It's a whole family event. It is at the Summerfest grounds. Okay. It kicks off at 8 a.m. And we actually walk, I believe, at 9 a.m. Yeah. It will kick off with a couple stories from cancer survivors. Yeah. It's a huge event. It's sponsored by a number of wonderful sponsors that I'll let Nikki talk about. But there is a community where you will get education. You'll hear stories. You'll cheer on the survivors. They usually have even some food there. But it's whole family, because cancer doesn't discriminate. So let's bring your family, bring your husband, bring your kids, bring your pets. Bring everybody and walk on September 28th.
And is it registration? Is it a cost to register? How does that work?
No, it's completely free, because we don't want anyone to not come because of any kind of financial barriers. So it is a family. It is absolutely open to family. We even have a blow up obstacle course for the young kids, but it's a movement.
Yes.
It is a movement of pink, and we are rain or shine. And I will tell you that there has been thousands that come out, even if it's pouring rain, because this event is so meaningful. And it is a huge celebration, but we also have time to reflect on those that should be walking with us and aren't. And it's just, I can't say enough about it. For me personally, and it's not because I work for the organization, but it's because of how the disease has touched my family. But for me, it's Christmas and 4th of July and all wrapped up in one few hours, because it's really powerful.
Yeah, I've had the privilege of attending, and it's not just, to your point, I feel it's a celebration of life as well, and seeing like the community coming together for such an important topic, and an understanding that I love that it's a movement.
Yeah, it is. It's women. This disease, although men get it, affects women. And what do women do? We support other women. We are there for other women. So that's why this walk is just so powerful. I really believe, because it is women coming together to say, we need the cures. Women have to stop dying of this disease.
Yes.
40,000 a year die of this disease, and it's still unacceptable.
And that's just the numbers that we know based on...
Right.
And here, what we know here in the U.S.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, these are numbers, again, like I was sharing the article, that they're just finding out this big community and, communities that don't have the resources, right? So let's help
Every
them
12
uplift.
seconds, someone is diagnosed with breast cancer. So I'm so grateful to Patty and others who fundraise and show up and support. And this allows us to do our mission, to continue to find the treatments, hopefully one day find the cures, change public policy.
Yes.
Because in order to be accessible to all, we need to change laws. And this all helps our Komen do its mission. And for those that aren't in Wisconsin or Southeast Wisconsin, on September 28th, find the walk near you at Komen.org, because we gotta stand together and unite.
Yes. And for those that can't make the walk, what are other ways that they can contribute and help in this important time?
There's other ways to volunteer and to get involved. And again, I'm just directing folks to KOMEN, Komen.org. And there's, at the top bar, ways to get involved.
Okay, awesome. And I know that you have a code that we're going to be publishing in all of our social media outlets, and we're going to be sharing in the YouTube video as well for our viewers. I'll be sharing it on my stories, because obviously I'm going to be there walking with Patty and with Nikki and all of the community. I've had the honor of being there. I mean, just the moment of being in community and the stories that you hear. And one thing that I want to share, and we were talking about this, is like every step counts, right? And remember, this is a free walk. And when we walk, we honor our survivors. We support those that are in the fight, like Nikki. And we'll remember the loved ones that were lost to this awful. But it's also leaving us a lot of learnings, right? And the research. And when we support the Susan G. Komen, this isn't just a walk. This isn't about just raising money. It is very important, because remember, without raising the funds, we can't support the research, which we know is not cheap. So every penny counts, every dollar counts, but it's mostly about raising hope and awareness and equity. I love that part where you were showing and sharing that this is a movement of even just letting others know that, yes, most women are the ones. I mean, 1 in every 12 seconds. That just breaks my heart that this is still happening. And we need to just let people know that it's okay to talk about it and be advocates. And like I said, I want to be one of those annoying friends asking now, going around every time I look at you, if I give you that eyesight, you know that I'm going to be like, I'll be pointing at your friends. Did you check your friends? No, that's amazing. Well, we're coming up in time, but I do want to thank you both so much for sharing both your stories, Nikki, for letting us and allowing us to be with you in this journey. I know you're such a fighter, and I know that I know it's not easy, but you know that you have a whole community. The Trascendencia en Acción, and all of us are here with you. We will be there with you, supporting you on the 28th as well, and obviously Patty for being a guerrera and my chingona. And I remember when we were talking about this, I was like, you got this, amiga. Go beat its ass. You're going to beat this cancer's ass. But like you said, this is something that goes with you for the rest of your life, 100%. Right? Survivors, I think this is something, and I can't remember where I was reading, but it says something about that. Once you're a cancer survivor, this is something that will follow you for life, because then you become part of the cancer family. And it is a duty to then pass it on and pay it forward, like you were saying, and bringing awareness, especially for our younger generations, right? And again, I'm so proud of the younger generations, because they're a lot more alert. But let's not take it for granted. Let's make sure that we're looking for resources. We'll be uploading links to where they can find more information. But I love to ask each of you to give us some wisdom and parting words for our community.
I'll just repeat what I said earlier. Be the CEO. Adhere to taking care of your body. And when you, in your gut, know that something's off, reach out and get and see a doctor. Yeah, that's what I guess.
I love that.
The last thing I want to say.
I'm going to say, and I'm going to speak from the Hispanic community, let's kill the cliches. Let's love our bodies. Let's talk about it. Let's encourage the Latinas to get out there and go get checked. Xochitl and I have a duty to stare at people now and make sure and make sure they're getting it done. But just know, women out there, you are so much stronger than you realize. And that's something that no one can take away from you.
I love that. I know. We need to quote that.
Patty has had some great quotes
I
here
know,
today.
so much wisdom. And I think one of my biggest takeaways from listening and knowing both of your wonderful stories, thank you so much for allowing our space to listen and hear more about this, is that the biggest lesson, this as bad as it is, the circumstances, the biggest lesson is really valuing life, appreciating those moments, learning to love yourself even more than you could ever imagine, learning to love your family and the people that surround you, and knowing truly who is, I always call it your tribe, that will be there for you in every step of the journey. And the fact that you don't know how strong you are until you have to be.
Yes.
Like, that to me has always been one of those things that we don't understand. I don't think as women, we comprehend the power that we hold within to carry through resilience in life circumstances and things until you're faced with it. And when you find that motivation, right? When you find that root, motor that moves to you and to you, Patty, I know you say it was your kids, your family, Nikki, your kid as well, your family, right? Like those are big enough things that sometimes we take for granted and we don't appreciate those moments in life. So make sure that you are getting your checks in motion. I will be going around asking people and looking you, staring you out and making sure that you could get it, especially for those that are in my 40s club. But thank you, Patty, Nikki. Where can they find out more about each of you? You guys have social media, pages?
Yes. I don't know. What do I share?
I have. You can find me on Instagram.
Okay.
Instagram is P. Cabral.
Okay.
That is my last name, my maiden last name. And you can also find me on Facebook.
And of course, we'll be tagging you when we are
100%.
posting.
Yes. Same. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you both of you for being here and sharing a little bit more about your stories. We'll definitely have to do an episode about menopause and all the other things.
Okay, yes. Yes, because I think there's things that women don't talk about.
No.
And let's make it normal. It is way beyond hot flashes.
Absolutely. I'm dying over here if you haven't noticed. I was just told that I'm hitting perimenopause and I was like, Peri, what? I had no idea that was a thing. And apparently that is more common now. And I was like, what?
Oh, it's a thing. It's very much
is.
a thing.
And, I wish it was just hot flashes, I'll tell you, but there's a lot more. So yes, I volunteer. I'm glad to talk about it.
All right, well, we'll have to come back to talk more about that because there's definitely plenty in our audience that will benefit for these conversations. But thank you both again for being here in Trascendencia en Acción. Thank you for your life, your journey, the gift of your wisdom and your experiences. I wish you nothing but the best to both of you. And we'll definitely see you there on September 28th. So
looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Xochitl. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
Thank you for, again, offering your platform to us.
Absolutely. And of course, mi gente, this was another incredible episode of our podcast. So watch out for the video, watch out for the links. You know where to find us. We'll be uploading and tagging these amazing ladies. September 28th, I look forward to seeing you there. I expect to see you there. And of course, make sure that you're showing up, you're supporting. We'll be uploading the QR codes if you can't make it, ways that you can donate. But let's talk about this. This is something that we should be normalizing. This is something we should be talking in our community. So stay tuned and we will see you on the next episode. Thank you. Bye.